what are some of the things that we need to avoid? What are some of the pitfalls, the time wasters, things that you have learned that you say, hey, look, I've been there, I've done it, try to avoid it.
Yeah, God, you guys, this is like, how long have you got? I've messed up so often. I've overpriced listings, I've underpriced listings, I've just screwed up. I think the number one thing is admitting when you're wrong, and also and being willing to change and be open to it, but not knowing my market, not knowing my data coming in the door. Like, you got to be an expert. You got to know more than everybody else in your field if you want to be confident, right? But even more than that, I mean, it's just such a long list of mistakes. Don't argue with your sellers. There's no point in that. What you maybe Nick and other people would have different opinions about that. What I mean by that is empathize with them. Like, this is their, so for some people, this is their retirement. This is it. Right. So see where they're coming from, and tell them everything you're going to do to try to make their dream happen. And still, at the end of the day, two things can be true at the same time. The house isn't worth what they want, and you really want it for them, but it's not worth that. But you really want it for them, and you're going to try your hardest, but it's not worth that. Like, stick to your guns if you know what you know. I've made a mistake of being pulled by sellers who have been bullies. That's why I went in to get an appraisal background, to get an appraisal license. I didn't know how hard it would be at the time, but I was sick of arguing with doctors, lawyers, engineers that would come into my open houses and say, well, this isn't worth that much. And I say, yes, it is. And I was in my 20s, and they're like, no, it's not. You're a little girl. So I went and got my appraisal license, because when they said, well, I'm an engineer, I know what I'm talking about, I would say, well, I'm an appraiser, I know what I'm talking about. Become an expert in what your little market is. You got to know every house in that neighborhood.
I love that. Yeah.
Yep. So you also talked about in our pre-show discussion about don't beating yourself up for getting value wrong. Not paying attention to the meetings and to the Fed meetings, things like that. So kind of just summarize your things to avoid when you're going in and establishing value with these folks that are wanting you to list their home. Like, I don't know, kind of, do you set the stage, meaning like you set the expectation, like this is what it's worth, this is why it's worth, this is my data that shows it's worth, this is how I'm going to market it. So as you're doing all that, is there still struggle with them, or are they just kind of submitting? I don't, it sounds weird, but kind of submitting, okay, Camille knows everything because she's just pounding us with knowledge, which is fantastic. Do you find it an easier pill to swallow by doing all this and avoiding those pitfalls?
Yes, 1,000 times yes. I had a 2-hour conversation with a client last night just over her financial future, because if sellers are on the fence about selling, talk to them about what they plan to do with the money. You're not a financial advisor, but help them future dream, because sometimes where they start to think about going will motivate them to sell. If a seller doesn't have a compelling reason to sell, and you're not getting a reason, like I always ask when I come in the door, like, what's your reason? What's your timeline? Why are you doing this? And they can't give you an answer, that's not a seller. You need to have a conversation with them that's holistic. And anywhere that you as an agent don't understand the holistic conversation around selling, you're missing something about your marketing piece. Your listing presentation should be a whole thing. It should be like the financial well-being, the emotional, spiritual well-being of these people. You are a counselor of sorts. You're here to be a sounding board to empower them to do the best thing for them. So figure out where their life is headed with them. Like, ask the right questions.
You're going to come back, because we're going to have a whole episode about the holistic conversations with the seller, because you just opened that can of worms right there.